Hi, so Tom, welcome to the Travel Summit 2020 podcast. This is our inaugural podcast as part of the Reuters Events family. And I just wanted to arrange this podcast to talk a little bit about the updates within the industry. So, on the agenda today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the cloud and hotel management and how a new mindset of openness can pay benefits in the travel industry. We'll then be talking a little bit about KLM and WhatsApp and how the future of airline integration looks. And then we'll talk a little bit about our company of the week. So before that, I'd like to introduce Tom Bacon to the podcast. Tom, do you want to give a little bit of a background on your work and what you do in the industry?
Sure, Christian. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. We haven't met yet, but I've been a regular at the various travel summits, conferences over the past 10 years now. Before that, I worked as a commercial executive at 5 different US airlines. I was there when American Airlines doubled in growth. I was in charge of fleet and labor negotiations and financial analysis. I am now in Denver. I moved here to help Frontier exit bankruptcy, and I was the chief commercial officer for Frontier, responsible for pricing and scheduling and fleet. And then after we sold Frontier, I moved into consulting. And so I've been working mostly with international airlines over the past 10 years and appreciated the opportunity to meet some of my contacts at your various events. Much of my work has continued to be on pricing. You know, a big thing over the past 10 years has been ancillary pricing and branded fares, each of which I introduced at Frontier Airlines. So my work internationally is often with a team that goes into an international carrier that is troubled, and we restructure the airline from a commercial standpoint.
And I think that's probably a really good place to kick off our topic when we're talking about some of the recent shift ups with the cloud, because news at the moment in the industry has been that the property management system landscape has been shook up in recent years in the travel industry with the new integration of cloud management systems that have made redundant in some cases legacy systems that were around since the early 1980s. And this has implications not just for the hotel industry, but also for the airline industry, I imagine. What do you think of the shake-ups within cloud integration within the travel industry at large?
Well, I'm very excited about the cloud, and I think there is tremendous opportunity still left for all of us. In our legacy environment, we typically had a big computer center, and customers who are all over the world for hotels and for airlines had to tap into this centralized database to find out if a seat was available and what the price was. And most of what we did, we tried to make it as easy and fast as possible, despite the fact you might be going thousands of miles to tap into this darn thing. And so we built in sort of some fixed systems to try to make it faster and easier. And with the cloud, you can get away from that. With the cloud, you can have much faster response all over the world, and you can undo some of that simplicity that we put into that. And you can have an intelligent system that understands where the booking is coming from, where the customer is in their search or booking journey, and try to provide the right content, the right price, the right experience for him on a much more individual basis. And so this is a case where many airlines and hotels are moving to the cloud, and they have been handicapped by their legacy systems for decades, And now what they need to do is get their commercial systems set up to leverage that opportunity on a global basis.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the advocates of the cloud would echo most of the comments that you've made there. I guess from the perspective, let's say I'm coming from a devil's advocate perspective right here, and I'm saying I work with a legacy mainframe. I'm maybe a hotelier or I'm in the airline industry. What's the problem with just patching the existing legacy systems when integration with the cloud can be an arduous process, especially from a tech side, from an investment perspective? Do the benefits outweigh the negatives of cloud integration, or is it the case that you may be in a situation where patching your legacy system is the right way to go instead?
Well, in general, patching the legacy system is the easier route, and it rarely meets the customer needs. As I said, one of the issues with the legacy systems is you're getting these contacts from all over the world at the same time, and so we don't respond on an individual basis to customers that have different needs. That slows down the system, and customers don't like the idea of waiting a couple seconds for a response. With the cloud, you can build in more intelligence in the system, build in more of an individualized experience without the longer response time. And so you could go in legacy and build in longer response time, but that wouldn't meet customer needs. And so the cloud allows you to do this more responsive, individualized, faster response from all over the world. And in some sense, Christian, we don't actually know the power of the cloud in the sense that it's new for us all, and we need to build the technology in, the intelligence, the personalization, the content management on a much more granular basis that leverages the cloud technology. And we don't know what that looks like, and we don't know how fabulous it's going to be, but we believe it's going to be a good thing for customers and a good thing for the travel supplier.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like part of what you're speaking to there is obviously the customer centricity, which in any industry is important, but specifically the travel industry, when the customer experience is so vital to the success of your product. And one of the great advantages of the cloud, as you're alluding to, is the fact that it simplifies a lot of processes. I mean, one thing as an example that I can pick up on, if you're in the hotelier community or if you're in the airline community, would be how easy it is with the cloud to promote integrations with your company. At the moment, it's hard for certain companies to compete with the larger companies in the space that have these integrations already. But the cloud can definitely be a lightweight solution to on-premise hosting, technology hosting. And
right,
a way for the small companies to compete.
I want to say that from an airline standpoint, and I think from a hotel standpoint, up until maybe 10 years ago, we didn't focus on customer experience online. We said the customer experience begins when the customer shows up at the airport or when the customer shows up at the hotel. But now we build in the experience online in booking and search, and those are incredibly important because obviously you're not going to get the customer if you don't have a way of communicating to them what your product is and pricing and so on. And then it goes on beyond that, right? Because the customer then has online experiences potentially a block from the airport or a block from the hotel, and at the airport before he's checked in or during check-in. And so the whole digital experience is a significant part of the travel experience now. And the cloud facilitates all that.
Yeah, of course. And I think that the word or the phrase that's on everyone's lips in the travel industry at the moment is how do we streamline? How do we reduce the friction? How do we make frictionless the customer journey or the guest journey? And you're 100% correct that it was only 20 or 30 years ago that you would see the main focus being that on-site experience. And now with the technological innovations, with the cloud, with the rise of the OTAs, the industry has developed to the extent that I think we're all starting to realize, if not already, that the customer journey is a cycle. And it begins with your discovery and your booking, and it ends with the loyalty and retention. But it's a closed loop, you know? And if you can integrate software like the cloud, then it's just going to make your job easier to continue that life cycle of your customer and to improve the experience for them in that regard.
That's right.
So I guess my the next article, the next piece of news that I'd like to look at the moment is the piece on how KLM have brought WhatsApp to their airline and have integrated it to the extent that they're now using it to allow their customers to book flights. I know as someone in the airline industry, this is something that you're probably all too familiar with. KLM are maybe the first to large scale implement this, but it's been something that the airline industry at large has been working towards for a number of years now. What do you think about the implementation of new technologies in order to engage with customers in this way?
Well, this is another exciting area, but it's terribly challenging. What I see so often is that new technology is out there. Okay, WhatsApp. We need to somehow get our integration with WhatsApp. But it's not just a technology problem. It is a much larger problem. I mean, we sort of often focus on, oh, we've got this legacy system, we've got legacy distribution, we have all these impediments to change, but then when a new technology comes in, we may try to adopt it without addressing all the other dimensions of change, and that means organizational. And so WhatsApp is a distribution channel. How does that change distribution? How does that impact the customer from a channel standpoint? Why would he use this channel versus another channel? Understanding the whole, how it fits into distribution, sales, customer experience, pricing, content. So organization is often an impediment. We operate in silos too often. Another impediment is the people. And so potentially WhatsApp is going to require a different kind of person in the IT department or a different kind of person in the distribution department, because it's opening up a whole new technology for us. And so you can't just say the people have been working with travel management companies now work with WhatsApp as well. I mean, it doesn't sound like that's going to work very well. You've brought up a customer-centric culture, and
sure.
And sometimes airlines that lament their legacy impediments focus on technology, but it's almost technology centric. It's not customer centric. You know, what is the customer? How's the customer going to interact with you differently? What different kind of customer? What different expectations does he have? A real customer centric approach has to be brought to any of these new technologies. And the last thing I need to bring up on this is that we often look at these technology changes as projects. And so,
sure.
Okay, let's get the whole organization together on a branded fare. Let's get the whole organization together on a WhatsApp integration. And then they move on to the next project. But that isn't how technology is working now. I talked about cloud. cloud is a stepping stone to a whole new world. And if you just implement cloud without thinking of it as a complete journey, something that is going to be ongoing, that is a new technology that you can exploit with your organization, not as a project, but as a new world in effect for you. And so I'm sure that KLM will find that WhatsApp is more than a project, that it is going to be a journey for them as they tap into the new kinds of customers that will be using WhatsApp.
Yeah, of course. And the figures coming out from KLM so far is that they're saying that the WhatsApp integration is bringing them up to 15,000 new subscribers every day, which is, I guess it speaks volumes to how technology can be more than just a project. It can reach out to new customers, and it can bring the customer experience at the point of acquisition to a new level. And I think that another question I guess I'd have for you on this is that we're living in this era where the customer loyalty is reduced in some regards. I know that definitely within the airline space, you have some carriers that that still retain the loyalty of their customers through their great customer service and their great customer experience. But as a general rule, we're seeing a lot of airlines suffering at the hand of commissions from third-party distribution. Do you see WhatsApp as being one of a few solutions that the tech industry is going to be able to provide to circumventing the costs or the potential costs of third-party distribution?
Well, definitely, potentially. And I do not know, Christian, what kind of customer will be booking on WhatsApp, or who is already booking WhatsApp, and
Yeah.
how they compare to other customers. So it could be effectively cannibalizing their existing direct distribution. It could be reducing distribution cost by bringing more direct, but I think that has to be learned, and I think that that those customers have their own expectations, have their own needs, have their own competitive issues, and so it certainly is a tool. It's a new tool for loyalty, but I don't think it's a necessarily a direct way of reducing distribution costs. That's pretty complicated.
Yeah, definitely. But it's a promising area, and I think that with both this and what we were talking about earlier with regard to the cloud and its possible integrations within the airline industry and the hotel industry, the travel industry at large, there's a lot of potential. And I think that by avoiding that project mentality that you were talking about, we're maybe going to be able to encourage a new degree of openness within the travel community that's going to allow these companies to explore whether or not these are viable alternatives to circumnavigating commission costs, to being able to engage with their customers' loyalty on a new level and improve that customer experience. So, I mean, yeah, maybe that's a cop-out on my part.
I agree that technology can definitely help with loyalty, and that that loyalty is not as big as we would like it in the travel industry. I think that you have corporations that sort of drive the customer to the lowest cost airline, or the cost that gives them as a corporation the most benefits. You have online travel agents, Expedia, and so on, that allow customers to really compare prices and find that lowest fare. I mean, those don't sound like loyalty, like what you were talking about. Loyalty that says, I will pick this airline over another airline, even if he's $20 more,
sure,
because
yeah,
I like the experience. That doesn't happen enough, and I think technology, I think WhatsApp, I think The cloud are all tools for providing a better customer experience that someone could actually say, I will pay more for that. But it doesn't happen very often right now, I don't think.
No, definitely not. And I think that maybe one of the aspects that's at the heart of what you're getting at there is that it's not just customer experience per se, it's that personalization factor. There are multiple different messenger apps out there, not just WhatsApp. But if you're a hardcore WhatsApp user, and I think that KLM have been specifically expanding into the WhatsApp for Business space. And if your company works on WhatsApp for Business and you're looking to book flights and KLM is the only provider that has the WhatsApp integration, then like you say, that's something that's worth paying more for, surely. And that's going to improve the customer experience, retain that loyalty, and ensure that you get that rebooking.
That's right.
So I guess that the tech space looks like a really interesting development, or I should say, it has the possibility for a really interesting expansion within the travel industry and all of its different implementations. I have a segment that I'd like to sort of end with, which is, do you have a company that you think is really, really getting it right in this space at the moment? A company that you think either because of tech implementations or just because of its customer experience initiatives within the travel sector is really innovating or working hard to improve its customer experience?
I think that travel startups are a tremendously exciting thing right now, that the large airlines that have consolidated don't necessarily have the innovation mindset. They often have the legacy mindset. The cloud can help change that mindset, and integration with WhatsApp can help change that mindset, but it's challenging. And so they rely on small entrepreneurial ideas that can be developed outside of them and then used by them once they've matured somewhat. And so I'm currently working with many startups, and they're all the integration or the overlap of technology and travel, because there just are lots of opportunities there. The company that comes to mind in terms of what I think is tremendously innovative and lots of potential is Beyond Pricing. So pricing is one of my areas of interest, and that includes ancillary pricing and branded fares and personalized pricing. But Beyond Pricing has taken similar technology that we've developed in an incredibly sophisticated, complex way for both airlines and hotels, and brought it to vacation rentals. And so someone that is renting out his extra room can tap into a more sophisticated pricing tool, besides just saying, okay, how about $80 a night? And he can vary it by demand. He can vary it by his location relative to other vacation rentals in his city. And so just even the notion of bringing this sophisticated pricing tool to individual property owners is just almost mind-blowing to me. But that's what Beyond Pricing does. And so I think it's an example of the kind of creativity and the kind of opportunity that is out there for the overlap of technology and travel.
Yeah, and I think that that's definitely one of the advantages that those startups can have, is their agility in comparison to some of the behemoths and the mainstays in the industry. They're able to, like you say, test out those new ideas. So that's really fascinating to hear how within the vacation rental space they're innovating in that regard. Well, Tom, I would like to thank you for your time. I think we've come to the end of our podcast today. I'd like to say that for anyone listening, for more information on CX and tech within the travel industry, feel free to check out our Reuters Events white paper, which got published just at the beginning of this week. We have insights from all corners of the travel industry, including the CEO of Y Hotel and the innovations that they're making. We've also got innovations and insights from the VP of Advertising and E-commerce at Caesars, and also from Vacasa, Xanterra, and a number of others. And it's all completely free. Feel free to check it out at the website events.ifortravel.com/North America, and there's a free download there available for you. Additionally, if you'd like to get in contact with me about any topics that you found interesting in today's episode, or any topics that you feel like you'd want to hear more about within the travel industry, feel free to get in contact at my email, christian@ifortravel.com. That being said, I'll leave it to you, Tom, in case you have any plugs, anything interesting going on. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners before we go?
Well, Christian, that I've enjoyed your events in the past, and it often is exactly what we're talking about in terms of an overlap of technology and travel that is intended to make the industry more customer-centric while providing more profitability for the travel supplier. So I enjoy the networking and the presentations and look forward to that this year.
Well, super. Thank you for that. I think that this is something I can share with you, because we just announced today that we're going to have a keynote speaker from Airbnb, the head of their experiences policy. So we're really looking forward to the Travel Summit, which is taking place on June 1st and 2nd in San Diego. And we're looking forward to talking on every aspect of the travel industry, on each touch point, from acquisition, from how the customer engages with you through your different distribution channels, all the way to loyalty and retention, and then back around again. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope I'm going to be seeing you there, Tom. And I thank you again for your time. Next week on the podcast, we'll be talking about technology and distribution with a guest who at the moment is to be announced. We're keeping it as a mystery guest, I suppose. But make sure to tune in at the same time next week, when we're going to be talking a little bit more about the technology and distribution from the hotelier perspective. Thanks again, Tom, and I'll see you next time.
Right. Thank you, Christian. Bye-bye.